This is Slasher here at Day 3 at IPL 5 in Las Vegas, and I'm here with TotalBiscuit, who has been casting the event, both Starcraft 2 and Shoot Mania, and all around watching everything that's happened so far. TotalBiscuit, you've gone to events for pretty much every single organization. This is the first IPL event in many months. GSL is running the production here, which is pretty special. They've never done that before. What are your overall thoughts on everything that's happened so far this weekend?
I think, honestly, IPL 5 has probably been the best tournament that we've seen all year for StarCraft 2, and I'll happily come out and say that. It really has gone above and beyond production-wise. The live experience for everyone here has been phenomenal. Downtime on main stage has been lower than pretty much most tournaments. They did something that MLG tried to do, and yet MLG didn't manage to pull off, which was to use the 4-booth setup in order to minimize downtime on main stage. And then, of course, you had Stream 2 and 3, which also had some great games. The caliber of play has blown every other tournament out of the water. I would add including WCS, which was a production disaster, and honestly, and this sounds evil and awful, but it had too many foreigners in it. The finals had too many foreigners, and as a result, we just saw people get slapped around left and right. And here we've got really great Korean talent as well as the best foreigner talent, and we're able to see some amazing games. So this is super stacked. It's great to watch. It's absolutely fantastic to cast. And I think that after a bit of a stumble with IPL 4, IGN's really come out and actually made this work. And this should be a really good tournament. It's a great way to cap off the year, and I hope that people are really excited to watch it.
What has made this tournament better for you compared to MLG, DreamHack, ESL? Those are the three big ones that come to mind.
Lack of downtime and quality of play, really as simple as that, especially when casting on main stage. There has been a lot of downtime in streams 2 and 3. There's no real way to avoid that at the end of the day. There's no way you can seamlessly transition between games that way. The 4-booth setup allows this to happen, so main stage has been awesome. Also, the way the stage is designed is super smart. It's a very wide room, yeah, and with very big screens. So that means you're never actually that far away from the action. Whereas at some MLG events as well, DreamHack has some problems. It depends on which venue they do, because obviously they tour around a bit. Some venues are good, some venues are not. But at some of these events, the chairs go very far back. Here, it's just very, very wide. So you have this really cool view of the audience where you can basically see everybody, and the crowd looks absolutely huge. So we've had really great crowd reactions. Even on day 1, which was VIP day, which had barely anyone there, they were still loud and proud. So I've been really happy to cast in front of some really enthusiastic people.
There's been a lot of hype about GSL producing this event. How much do you think that has come into play with your thoughts on how good this event is?
It's definitely been a significant factor. Assets have been produced. It looks like, I believe there's been this big collaboration between IGN and GSL to produce assets for the event to make sure that the intros are super slick, the splits are really good. Camera work has just been incredible. This is something I've been really surprised by. I think this event has had the best camera work, bar none, out of any event we've ever seen. And that's resulted in a really slick professional production. The stream-wise, I've noticed that there's been an interlacing problem, which is like the only downer on the entire production on main stage. Like, obviously, it doesn't affect live guys. They're having a whale of a time. Sound balance is perfect. All the assets, all the transitions are perfect. No mistakes anywhere on production. And yet, the stream has had this interlacing thing. I don't know what piece of tech they're using, but you've got these scan lines, which is really terrible to watch. And it's unfortunate because it kind of ruins the HD that would otherwise look really, really crisp. But hopefully people are still enjoying watching it. And if this is what GSL can do in the West, then please come back, because this has been a great experience for us as casters. They're super professional. They're on point on everything. And we never have to worry that production's going to slip up or put us on air at the wrong time. They're just perfect 100% of the time.
GSL gets to do this every single day, so they have a lot of practice, in their own studio. Do you think that's the reason they've been able to kind of outshine other organizations, or is there something different that you've noticed here with the way that they've run the event compared to the other guys?
Well, being a television network is kind of helpful. I mean, production-wise, they're going to have a ton of experience. Doesn't necessarily mean they know how to do events like this. Obviously, they have GSL finals, but their regular studio stuff is a very, very different setup. But they brought the knowledge, they brought the people to do it. Their production team is massive, bigger than any other tournament that I've ever seen for one stage. I mean, the same amount of guys they got for one stage are used for often 3-4 stages for MLG. So it seems like they've got people assigned to do absolutely everything, and as such, they're able to do more. It's no slight to MLG to say that they're doing so much with so few experienced staff. GomTV's just got a huge number of people that know what they're doing, so they're able to put on some great stuff.
So you've been casting StarCraft 2 mainly for the tournament. We have now ZvZ GSL finals. We have a ZvZ upper bracket finals. We have Potent Bomber coming from the lower bracket to see what will happen tomorrow. What do you think about kind of the Zerg heavy play this weekend? Do you think that has it gotten on your gotten on your nerves by now, or are you still all right with it?
You know, the thing which annoys me most about this current balance situation is that it hurts the players more so than anyone else, and it has this huge impact on esports in general for Starcraft 2. So when a Zerg wins, what do we get? What's the community response? Hey, Zerg OP, wine. You know, we have even that overshadowing the GSL round of 4 and all sorts of things like that. And now, of course, we have this result of the finals being a Zerg versus Zerg. And it really sucks that players get shouted at for their chosen race. They're not going to change race just because you think it's overpowered, right? You know, there's obviously a problem somewhere. Blizzard has already recognized this. They're working on it. They're trying to figure it out. I wish they'd do it faster, and they should have done it months ago. But it really sucks for the players to not be recognized for their accomplishments as a result of Blizzard balance tomfoolery. And what I would hope to see is this situation to be remedied with Heart of the Swarm. And as a result, we get people coming back because we do take viewer hits when ZvZ is on. A big example, and you could argue that it's because Flash is Flash, but we noticed a huge drop of tens of thousands of viewers between the semi-final and the final of MLG Dallas, which was one of the most viewed events this year. The views were looking super strong, over 100K concurrence. We haven't seen that for StarCraft in ages. That's crushing. That's really, really good for StarCraft, especially in its current state. And then as soon as ZvZ finals, down goes the concurrence. That sucks. You know, I appreciate ZvZ as a mirror matchup. I don't think it's the best. TBT's better, but I'm sick of seeing it, and a lot of people are as well. So it's definitely harming the StarCraft 2 scene right now, and something must be done one way or the other. This whole laissez-faire wait-and-see attitude that's been going on the last 6 months since the Queen buff has clearly not worked, and it seems like Terran are having to work really, really hard to break Zerg and Protoss, unless they get a good bracket, which often ends up in a PvP final, getting slapped around all over the place if Broodlords ever come onto the field.
So now you said that those numbers were crushing for MLG Dallas concerning the current state of StarCraft 2. Do you think that there are some issues right now with StarCraft that is holding it back?
It's just what I said. You know, I feel it doesn't even matter if there's a balance issue. If there's a perception of balance issue, then people are less enthused by the game. They get pissed off, they stop watching. That sucks. That hurts everybody. So something must be done to shift that perception. Whether it be Terran's just come up with some great new build that starts to win tournaments again and people start watching again because they're sure that the competition's going to be much hotter, or whether Blizzard actually takes a proactive role in balancing, or whether we just have to wait until Heart of the Swarm comes out in a few months. That's what's got to be done as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's anything else the players can do. They're all playing phenomenally well. They're all putting on great shows. And half of them are getting slammed for it because they just happen to play Zerg. That sucks. That's terrible. That needs to stop.
4 players left: Violet Bomber, Polt, and Weenock. Any interesting storylines between those 4 guys, or anybody else that you've seen so far this weekend?
Bomber is the hardest working player I have ever seen in my life. A good example is when he won his game against Dongregoo. There was a shot of Dongregoo with sweat on his face. Like, they actually zoomed in. It's like, I've never seen Dongregoo break a sweat. He had to work so hard, and then he lost to Bomber, who was playing the games of his life. What did Bomber do? Did he go outside and celebrate his victory? He could have. There were thousands of adoring fans waiting for him to do it. No, he sat in the booth, and he watched the replays. First, he watched the last game, and then he watched the second game. These were both games that he won, and then he watched the game that he lost. And he did it time and time again. He stayed in the booth until he was told to leave. And then he went back to a computer and started practicing again. That guy works his ass off. That guy deserves every piece of success he can possibly get. That guy has been around in StarCraft 2 for the longest that I can remember. I remember casting his games at DreamHack Winter. Wow, was that 2010? It was. I think it was 2010. And he's back with a big, big push. His skill is phenomenal. His builds are perfect. This guy is a machine. This guy deserves the win. If he doesn't get into the final, even though, you know, it's going to be Polt v Bomber. It's like, that's like watching my parents fight each other with spiked clubs. I don't want to see that happen, but at least it means the Terran's going to advance, right? One of those guys must be in the final. They've worked too hard not to get there.
So one of the most talked about things that's happened so far happened yesterday in the GSL semifinals with a player you sponsor, Ryung, losing 3-2 in the very last game. He writes Imba, 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 Imba about 15 times. You made a pretty funny comment on Twitter about taking him to the Cheesecake Factory as discipline for what would happen to him. Now, you're not the team owner of Axiom, as that is your wife, Jenna Bain. But what are your thoughts on the whole situation, his comments, any repercussions that you think should come from all this?
Well, there's this whole thing about emailing the sponsors, right? Well, you can if you like. I probably won't respond, but you're probably best just to tweet the sponsor, right? If they have problems with that. The situation sucks because I think that comment really struck a nerve with a lot of people that were feeling exactly the same way. Someone had to say it. Pro players have been trying to avoid it. Personalities have as well, because we feel like our comments have a great deal of weight, right? So we have to be super careful. Ryong, in a frustrated state, typed that out. He did GG. It's not like he rage quit out of the game. And I think that Ryong, it was part kind of a joking comment, and it was partly a serious just bit of venting of frustration. I was actually talking to his teammate Crank afterwards, and Crank, the quotes go something like this. I can't remember the exact thing, but it's like, when remarks made like that is for fun, StarCraft must be like Carnival. Because he thinks that this kind of thing spices things up. And actually, it's kind of right, We get this kind of stuff happen in sports. Yes, there are repercussions. Now, from a sponsor standpoint, I believe that players should be able to speak their mind. And I built a business for the last 2 years. I even built a fan site 5 years before that, on the basis of guys speaking their minds and not being afraid to say what they wanted to say. And to me, Ryong represents my company very, very well, because that's exactly the kind of thing I would do. And you know that. I'd go onto Twitter and I would say something like that. And the whole resulting drama surrounding it is really unfortunate, because for a fact that would have never been said if the balance wasn't better, right? Or if there wasn't just this perception and just massive bubbling frustration with the community and with the players. Even the Koreans are just getting super annoyed by it. And it's so unfortunate that we've got to that state. But repercussions-wise, at the end of the day, it's all been handled internally, and we've already handled it. Gom and Mr. Chase. So this has all been dealt with. Obviously, if you want more information, talk to the team owner. I, as a sponsor, I'm not worried. My sponsorship continues regardless. There's no question, and it's something that I can definitely relate to.
So lastly, this is your final event of 2012. You've been in esports for a little while now, but you're kind of new compared to some of the other casters in the community. What are your thoughts on this year as a whole for esports, and kind of where it's grown, and then some of the problems that we've had upcoming with how big it's grown in such a quick period of time? And what do you think about next year, and also personally your plans for next year?
Well, I'll start with the plans first. I plan to just keep casting. I approach esports in a Pokemon style fashion. I've got to cast them all. And there's only really 2 events that I haven't cast, GSL being one of them, which I don't think is ever really going to happen unless they need a stand-in for a foreign event. I have no interest in going to Korea. Hate flying, for one thing. I'm not really big on the food either. So, and really for me, for business decisions, it's actually business suicide. So there's no reason for me to go and cast GSL. Also, have not cast IEM, even though I've been invited to. I guess that kind of counts. They invited me, but I just wasn't able to do it. Every other major event I've pretty much cast now. So I do this for fun, and I'm having a hell of a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. And all of the tournaments that I've done this year have been really enjoyable in greater or lesser extents. They've still all been awesome in their own way. And I'm looking forward to doing yet more of it. And hopefully once this green card stuff's sorted out and go back to Europe, I can come back to DreamHack if they want me, and I can go and do a few other European events. But as regards to esports and just the growth, we've seen growth, but it hasn't really been from StarCraft. 2012 hasn't really been a growth year for StarCraft, honestly. We've been in kind of a holding pattern, certainly for the last half of the year, because we're now in this awkward spot where we're all waiting for Heartless Swarm to see what that does, right? And we've also had this perceived balance problem. So I've seen growth in esports, but it's been in League. League of Legends has grown massively. I don't know why people are surprised by that. They have 35 million active accounts, and they get 200K concurrent views, and people suddenly think the sky's falling. Really? Blizzard's only sold about 4 million copies of StarCraft 2, right? And we get 100K concurrence on MLG Dallas, whereas they get 200K and they have 35 million accounts. What do you see? I see a community that's passionate for esports. And yes, sure, there's more viewers for LoL. It's not really a big deal. It doesn't matter if they have more viewers, honestly. We have more passionate esports fans, and if we can continue with that, then we convert a greater portion of the player base into people that are really into competitive gaming. That's good for everybody. We want to see that happen. I'm not the kind of person that believes that League success actually helps StarCraft 2. There is no esports club. It's BS. Anyone that believes otherwise, I think, is out of their minds. People like watching their particular game. They don't necessarily like watching another game. In fact, they're often dead set against it. So growth is going to continue in these independent areas based on particular games. And at the moment, things are looking fairly strong. You know, we haven't screwed up too hard yet. Sponsors are still coming in. Events are still getting good views. And 2013 is going to be a big event for StarCraft 2. Either Heart of the Swarm really kicks us into high gear or it completely ruins the game. StarCraft 2 is dead. And I guess we all go play Dota, right? I like Dota. Dota's fun. We can do that.
Well put, I have to say. Thank you, TotalBiscuit, and I can't wait to see what you do next year.
Thanks a lot. And I hate you very, very much.
And that's how we're going to end things here. Stay tuned to GameSpot.com/esports for coverage all weekend long of IPL 5 in Las Vegas.